Hello, everyone. My name is Chubby.
And I'm Vanessa, and welcome
No
to
filters,
No
no fears
Filters, No
podcast.
Fears podcast.
Yes, today's level elephant is a level 4.
And I really like today's episode. I'm excited for it. Um, we're going to talk about the name of the episode,
Yes,
of course. We're talking about adoption today,
yes.
which is exciting. Um, uh, Chubby was kind enough to, and I saw that you were posting things today, which I really appreciate.
Yes, of course.
Made me happy pants. Yeah. But before we started today's episode that we've been planning for a hot minute about adoption, I wanted to take a moment, and I may cry. Uh, we would be remiss if we didn't mention what's happening in Cuba right now. I am Cuban American. My mother's Cuban, my father's Dominican, but Cubans, they talk to you about your history forever and what it took to come here and what was sacrificed and what the people in the island deal with. Unfortunately, the history after 1959 ceases to exist to anyone outside of the island. The only way you learn the history of the Cuban people, what actually happens in the regime, is by talking to the people who've left the island, the people who suffered it all. And fortunately, now social media exists. Sometimes social media is the pits of the earth, and sometimes it is the salvation of so many places. Um, because it exists now, people are able to get information off of the island, and they are in dire need of help. 6,000 plus cases of COVID are reported daily. People are dying left and right. And just like what you posted today, it's a genocide.
Yeah.
And they want the most basic of human rights. They want freedom. And I never thought in my lifetime I would see any of this happening. My grandparents prayed for this. The slogan of the whole idea of Cuba Libre is something that little by little lost its truth, lost hope for the Cuban people, whether you were born here in the States or came or immigrated here from the island. And now it may actually be a reality. And freedom for them means freedom for a lot of other countries as well. So I hope it all works out. So please, if you see information about what's happening in Cuba, educate yourselves and share. That's it.
Yes, it's a heavy one, but it's one that we need to obviously talk about, and obviously, like every other, thing that happens in the world, we talk about it. We have to, like you always say, we're not an island. So Cuba, it is not. For you to say it's not affecting us, it's a lie, because it is.
Yeah.
Especially like you said, there are Cuban Americans or just Cuban people that migrated here. Is the same thing. It affects you because you still have family back there. So
1,000%. We haven't been able to communicate with the family that's on the island. There's people that have gone disappearing, people that have been taken to prison for no other reason than the fact that they're standing up for what they believe.
right, and that's the privilege we get, that we could do it from here and suffer no consequences at all, or barely any you know
And I think Kubi and I have made it more than evident. We stand up and we stand with and in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, Trans Lives Matter, the LGBTQ plus community, um, uh, murdered and missing Indigenous women, these things that are incredibly important. So it would set, it goes without saying that even if I weren't Cuban,
we was
that this is would be important to me. It's important to Chubi. We're not Cuban, but you know what I'm saying? People are suffering, people are dying.
yeah,
And that's what's important.
yes. And
So thank you for allowing this space for that.
no, of course, just like you said, any and all the topics are more than welcome, because
And on a happier note, happy non-binary awareness. Is it day
week
or
is
week?
week. Yes, week.
It's the whole week.
Well, I mean, it's a whole lifetime, but yes, it's a it's a week. It's a week, you know. The day is July 14th, so we get a week. It started, you know. So yes, yes, thank you. So happy non-binary awareness week to all the non-binary babies out there.
I mean, we couldn't not mention these things.
Of course.
This is why we're always saying that there's way too much to talk about
Right.
in one
And
day.
there's not always enough time to make space for, but we always gonna try to, you know, I'm pretty sure there's other things we've missed, but you know, there's just two of us and
We're
yes.
trying.
So with that being said,
But today we are going to talk about adoption.
yes, which we've put it off for a while now. You know, the funny thing is we have put it off for a while because it wasn't the time, like, I don't know, it didn't fall for us to talk about it. But now is the day, is the day. So here we are.
We talked about it like 2 seasons ago or something like that. 2-3 seasons. It just never felt
Right. There was always something, you
Yeah.
know. But here we are. So we can't continue this without a definition. But here we are. Adoption is a process whereby a person assumes the parenting of another, usually a child, from that person's biological or legal parent or parents. Legal adoptions permanently transfer all rights and responsibility along with filiation from the biological parent or parents. Obviously, that's just one definition because there's multiple ways of adoption that I'm going to mention in a minute. And it's not just one way. Types of adoptions that they are foster care, you know, when the children whose biological birth parents cannot care for them are mostly placed in the foster care system. Foster to adopt. Children in the system will be placed in homes for other families to foster, but they will become legally free and available for adoption. Infant adoption, you know, the most one that people do because it's a tinier baby, you know, and we already know how that goes with the older kids, some age out of the system, and that's another topic we're gonna, you know, touch upon today. Independent adoption, which is there is usually no counseling from birth parents, and the infants aren't always eligible for financial aid or are noticed special needs at birth. Close adoption, which is the most not common one, but is the second most common one. Not identifying information about the birth parent. So the kids get adopted, the parents, the kids don't know anything about the parents don't want to know anything about the kids. It's closed. An open adoption, meaning the kids get adopted, they get to see or interact with the biological parents, and they get to know who they are and see them throughout, but they have their adopted parents. Mind you, we're not only talking about human adoption, okay? We're talking about animal adoption, the fur babies. We're talking about everything. Fur babies are babies.
I mean, this particular topic it's important to me. I have 2 adopted siblings. So I have a half sister from my dad's second marriage, but 2 specific cases that led my mom to adopt. My older sister had a terrible car crash, and the only way for my mom to have be able to take care of her medically, her biological mother, we were very close to that family, said, please just take care of my daughter. So my mom adopted her, took over her medical care, and my sister. And the same for my younger sister. Both my sisters live in Dominican Republic. My older sister is Dominican, and my younger sister is from Haiti. And she's pretty much alone in Dominican Republic. And as we know, and if you don't know, check it out. Dominicans are not very kind to Haitians.
Yeah.
So my mom adopted my sister Lorena. So it's a special place in my heart. What has been your case with
Well,
adoption?
I had 2 adopted cousins from my aunt's side. When I was a teenager, she adopted a baby and a 9-year-old, and the baby was closed, but the 9-year-old, it was very tough because he was already 9, so yet he had his own ways of being, and he has lived there, and he was traumatized and he's been through a lot. But it wasn't a close adoption because it was foster to adopt, but he had family, but they themselves were in a struggle, so they couldn't keep him. But there was an open adoption, so that he was able to see them. But at the end, it ended up being like, I want him, I'm their uncle, and I'm gonna take the kid. So it became a problem, even though my aunt wanted to adopt him, it ended up just being like the uncle took him. So, and my sister wanted to adopt, a couple of years ago. She wanted to have her own little, baby, but that didn't happen because life. But and I always was thinking that, as I don't want children at all, but if I were to ever think of having a human to take care of, it would be like a 12-year-old or one that's about to age out of the system, because those kids never get the help. They age out of the system, and then that's it. And some foster care systems do not provide the needs that they need after they leave. Some fail them.
They barely provide it while they're in the
That
system.
too. Mind you, we're not saying that all foster cares or all systems like that are terrible. We're just saying that I've heard, seen, and experienced that.
Again, we remind hashtag we're
We're
not
not
therapists,
therapists.
right? We're also not social workers, but I mean, from the research that we've done, and also from stories, right? Experiences and interactions with people who have either been in the system themselves or have had to deal with the system because they've adopted. The whole thing about aging out, I think, is one of the sadder things because of the long-term effects on the child's mental health.
Right.
As they're developing. These are the stages in their life when, we've done the episodes on attachment styles.
Exactly.
These are the stages in which a child learns how to
Right.
connect with other
And who
human
they
beings.
are, and yeah.
And granted, there's amazing foster parents. Unfortunately, just like there are amazing foster parents that some children are very fortunate to be placed in their home, there's also not great homes that children get placed in where they get abused or treated. I've heard horrible stories of kids who've been put into foster care, waiting to be adopted, and they're put in homes that either already have biological children, like children that are those foster
Right.
parents, and then the foster child gets treated like a servant or less than, either a servant to the household or a servant to the biological child.
Right.
Those kinds of things are sad. Some of them teeter on being human trafficking.
Right, and that's one of the
which-
cases that I've that, like we mentioned in some other episodes. Yeah, babies tend to get adopted into this thing, and it turns out to be human trafficking. And I'm sorry to say this, but babies are a commodity. They're huge.
Everybody wants a
Like,
baby. And I get the appeal, right? We did the episode already about wanting to be a mom or whatever. I want to be a mom and I want the baby and the whole bit. However, if I did at one point say, I was like, I want to have my babies and I also want to adopt, because adopting my sisters, I saw the change that it made in their lives and how special and important was. Mind you, my older sister, we adopted my older sister. She was already of legal age, but because of the condition, her condition of health, they thought she was going to be brain dead. And so they allowed for an adoption, even though she was of age. My younger sister is 14, was 14 at the time that she was adopted. So and for her it was different because all of her family was in Haiti. She was basically here alone, except for an aunt. And it definitely made a difference in my other sister's life. And it made a huge difference for us.
yeah,
It really expands your already existing capacity
Yeah.
to love, right? And to be understanding, because the experiences of some of those that are adopted, right?
Yeah.
The first adoption, half her skull was crushed in a car accident. My second sister, it was a very different scenario, but also it was a abuse related situation. So when things like that happen, it really tests you and opens you and makes you empathetic to others' situations, and also culturally. I mean, I am half Dominican, but my sister was born and raised in the island. And my other sister, who's from Haiti, it's a completely different experience. And to become, you know, aware of those experiences and educate yourself on them so you're not a fool, it is quite beautiful. That's why when I see like families adopting children from Asia or from from the Caribbean, I think it's really special, or from Africa even, because if they're not able to find homes and they find a home with somebody else who's really willing to do the work and understand that it's not just about, yay, I have a baby. They're not a freaking toy. There's responsibility that comes with it. So,
Yeah, yeah, but it's also the fact that some people find it to be a fetish. Like, oh, I'm gonna, adopt, like, foreign baby. And sometimes it's like, are you doing it for the right reasons? Like, are you seriously doing it for the right reasons? Do you have the capacity to understand what you're getting yourself into, and to comprehend that this is, like you said, is not a toy. It's a living, breathing thing that you have to take care of. And it's like, and then like we've mentioned before plenty of times, some people do it for the wrong reasons, which is governmental wise, money.
oh yeah, when you
That's the big one.
foster a certain amount of
Yes.
children, they will just keep the money coming, and I mind you, I hate to make it sound like we're only bringing up the seedy, sordid parts of this world, but the reality is that it still does exist. It happens a lot less than it used to, thank goodness. But, you know, we commend those that are doing it the right way, but to ignore that there are still situations where parents are like, "Hey, I got a big house. I can take in 8 foster children." That means more checks for them. You know what I
No,
mean?
yeah,
Are they using it really for that child, or are they using it to get a boat
right,
and that
exactly.
child's going to clean
And
that
then
boat?
that's why sometimes I question, and that's why the process of adoption has become even more harder now, because they do like background checks. I mean, they do like an intensive actual research. What's the reason you're doing it, and your income, and then it's become harder for other people to actually adopt when they can, you know? And then just like when same-sex marriage parents want to adopt, remember that was used to be a thing, that it was a big no-no.
Which that always, then again, the entire uh, bias towards same sex couples wanting to marry and all that never made sense to me. I thought it was such caca.
Right,
You know what I mean? So the idea that some of these children could potentially sit in the system until they age out, right?
right,
Will have, because a lot of those kids come out there a higher percentage for PTSD, and not necessarily because they are in unhealthy
right.
environments, right? There's there is a feeling that you can't deny of rejection because you may have been in the system the full 18 years or 5 years or 8 years, and you were not taken home.
Right.
You never were able to get a forever family that stays with the
Mm,
child, has an
right, because they
effect,
feel
you
like I
know?
never got adopted in my 18 years. I always saw other kids getting adopted. Why not me? Was I the problem?
Yeah, there's something, yeah, was there something wrong with them? And that's a terrible thing to grow up feeling. And I don't necessarily think that in the system they they do what they can, but I don't know that it's equipped to, you know, provide the kind of feelings for this child to feel like, oh, it just was a luck of the draw.
Right.
I didn't get adopted. Now I got to go off into the world and start a life.
And
right?
And then again, like we mentioned before, they have to go into this life without having any proper guidance, because some foster care system fails at that. They do not even prepare a resume for them or give them a starter job, or like, oh, this is what you want to go to college, or this or that. And again, we're not saying that all places are like that, but the majority have been that way. They're just there, give me the money, I was taking care of these kids being abused, then they leave. And I heard plenty of stories like this, which is sad to me. And I've heard a handful of glorious moments of children getting adopted and having a beautiful life, you know. But we also have to mention the atrocities that happen, because we can't have one good thing without the other.
So, according to the Adoption Network, um, although no more than 2% of Americans have actually adopted, more than a third have considered it, right? So I'm glad. For a long time, a lot of people felt some sort of shame that if they weren't able to have a child that they would adopt, there was shame in adopting.
Right, like there was a problem with that.
So I'm really glad that that kind of, yeah, I'm glad that mentality has changed because, and the same thing with same sex couples, like, why are you going to deny a child a loving home, right? When they could have a
Right,
family,
they're just too.
you know what I'm saying? Um, One out of every 25 US families with children have have an adopted child. So, how common is international adoption? Right?
Yeah,
When you adopt a child from a different
country.
country, 19,942 international adoptions back in 2007.
Wow,
And now that's a lot.
that's a lot.
And in that time, also, there was a lot of changes in the
Right,
law of adoption and whatnot because of that. What we were talking about before, people were treating it like a
right.
collection. I got a baby from Africa. I got a baby from China. I got, okay. So it became more difficult to do international adoption. And by 2011, it declined to
Mm-hmm.
9,319 adoptions, right? Because it became more restrictive. Um, Open adoptions, almost 60 to 70% of domestic adoptions are now open adoptions. Um, so there's disclosure that happens. So that's interesting. I gives the child an opportunity to potentially know their biological parents, which could be a good thing. Could, not always. Get this, there are about 7 million Americans who are actually adopted. I know a bunch of people, like a handful of people that I didn't know were adopted. They told me I'm adopted. And I was like, oh, I didn't know.
Right. I mean, obviously,
As if one would, as if one would recognize it. If you can recognize it, that's a problem, I feel. But you, like, if you don't recognize it, it's because your family is your family. It's not necessarily the person who birthed you. 100 million Americans have adoption in their immediate family. 6 out of 10 Americans had personal experience with adoption, meaning that they themselves or a family member or a close friend were adopted, had adopted a child, or placed a child up for
oh wow.
adoption. Which that, oh, this is a statistic. How many children are adopted per year? 135,000 children are adopted in the United States every year. And this is of non-step parent adoptions, right? So these are adoptions full-fledged, not that the child was already knew one of the adopting parents. About 59% are from child welfare or foster system. 26% are from other countries, and 15% are voluntarily relinquished American babies. Can we talk about relinquished babies? It's sad, but if they're relinquished in the right way, I respect the parent that did that.
I mean, me too, because if you know you're not able to provide a life and something happened that you got pregnant and you know that you weren't able to provide a life, great, thank you. Instead of making this child suffer through, whatever the case, your situation was. Yeah.
I really loathe that the go-to response for that sometimes is to shame the woman.
Right, right.
Well, if you didn't want to get pregnant, you should have used the condom. Well, if you didn't want to get pregnant,
But
hey, it takes two to tango.
right, we don't know the situation, so why are you judging the person? You don't know.
Exactly. You don't know the situation. You don't know what their experience is. You don't know if they were raped. Um, you know, abortion is not maybe an option for everyone because of financial reasons or religious beliefs.
And
So,
also the legal system.
I mean, I have, and the legal system, yeah, they don't help.
Definitely.
I mean, I do, it's a difficult pill for me to swallow when I've heard the stories of babies being dumped in garbage bins or found in toilets. Those things break my heart. Literally, zero questions asked. You can leave a baby at a church, you can leave a baby at a fire station. And this is well known information that they put everywhere, right? So when people do relinquish a child in that manner, you can drop off a baby, no questions asked, at a hospital where they will get the attention, the medical care that they need and put into the right hands. Social services will sweep right in and make sure the baby gets placed in a home.
Right, right.
And when that happens, I have respect for that parent, whether it was the mom who made the choice or both, whatever the case may be. The fact that they put that life in a situation that may have been better than what they could have provided, even if it was quote unquote selfishly because they wanted to have their life, that's still a of benefit to that child, right? It's not, you know, and time will tell if they're able to reconnect with that child or not. You know,
Right.
it's difficult because you never know what's going to happen after that. It could go so many directions for that kid.
And touching up on knowing someone's is adopted or not, I found a couple of do's and don'ts for how to respond or behave. Like, do give them your full support and be respectful, obviously. Treat them just like you treat a biological family, meaning if you have an adoptive family in your family, um, celebrate and recognize the gotcha days, like when you know, got them and whatever. Donate and support to foster care organizations, which I will share some links on Follow On with Chubi in a minute. um and then don't be shocked when someone tells you they're adopted. That's why I'm like, oh my god, you're adopted, I didn't even know. Like, dude, like if they didn't tell you that, you wouldn't have even cared, it would have been a normal thing, like with everything else, until it becomes the subject, the elephant in the room. That's when people become, oh, okay. Don't question the family's decisions for adoption. Oh, but why did your parents, or why did, come on, nobody wants to hear that.
People ask,
Yes, it's like, oh, why did your parents, they couldn't have kids? Or how many did you have? Do they have biological siblings? Like, do they have children of their own already? Like those type of questions I've heard in my life. And it's like the only questions I did have from my second cousin was, does he have family? Because it's a normal question to ask. Not why are you adopting him? Oh, but he's a different color or this or that. I don't give a fuck about that. It's about, does he have other family? Because that could be, like I told you the story, that could be a huge problem in the future. And don't jump to conclusions about other people, about people's families. Obviously, that is a common one. Why are you going to judge? Oh, but why did they adopt that baby? Oh, but they couldn't afford it. But this, or you don't know people's situations. Don't.
it ain't no
Exactly. If
problem.
you're not the one getting adopted, or adoption is not going to be in your family, what do you care? The thing that breaks my heart the most about foster care systems is that when they age out, that breaks my heart. Like, they're adults now, 18, with,
And they literally have to go into the world.
again, now it's like being lost again all over again, like with no guidance, nowhere to go, unless they have a good foster system that actually takes care of them and shows them the ways here's what you need to do, here's a resume, here's going to be your first job, and here's your house or whatever apartment.
Therapy in the system is not necessarily like
No,
grade A. You know what I'm
no.
saying? They're not necessarily receiving the support that um children, because they're
Yeah.
children, in that environment would probably need in order to build the sort of coping mechanisms and connecting and communication tools they would need.
And unfortunately, some kids that age out of foster system end up being homeless. And it's like, who do we blame? Do we blame the system? Do we blame the parents for bringing them into the world and putting them in a situation like that? Like, what do we do for that? Like, who do we blame? Like, how can we fix this?
I I feel like the blame thing is difficult
No,
to
of
ever
course, yeah.
pinpoint because the only thing that you can fix is where the situation they're coming from. Because if a child has to be in a situation where they age out of the system, like they don't get adopted, right? Then at least where they are, to better prepare them, to create opportunities for them to connect with people, whether it be volunteering, like meaning people come to volunteer. Because in a foster home, it's different. They have that one-on-one connection
Right,
depending on what the environment is. I've seen some absolutely brilliant foster
right,
parents that it's really difficult. I don't think I could be a foster parent because the letting go of this child that you have been, a child will be um, aging. There's the aging out, but typically it's between 2 to 5 years before they get adopted,
was just
right?
about to say that.
And yeah, could you imagine fostering a child for that long, the kind of attachment that you
Oh
build
yeah, that's
and having to say bye? I could barely do that. I was fostering animals. I had 10 cats, 5 dogs, and 2 ferrets. And every time I had to find them a forever home, my heart broke into a thousand
I have the
pieces.
same problem too with
Um,
animals. Like, oh my God, fostering all those pets and you having to let go. It's like you do form a bond, and it's hard to be detached while
Absolutely.
doing such a maternal thing and taking care of something. And it's hard.
And the hope is that you'll be able to maintain contact and hear about them,
Yeah,
right? But you also want them to be able to fully immerse themselves in their new life, in their environment,
right,
and build that mm, uh, familial
right.
connection with their new family nucleus. So it's it's an interesting situation to be in, to say the least. And actually, you mentioned something before that made me think. You're like about the do's and
Yeah,
don'ts. The majority of my family, uh, and they never got on the bandwagon with my grandparents. My grandparents were amazing and accepted my sisters as my sisters. Le decían mis nietas, my grandchildren, and my nieces, my niece and my nephews were their, great grandchildren. There was no questions in their mind. But it's really funny because my aunts did not feel that way. They understood the importance of these individuals in my life and in my mother's life, right? And they were like a part of the
right,
family because my family's always been big on like quote unquote adopting the friends
right,
and like bringing them into the family and inviting them to the, but to acknowledge that they were legit adopted and they were my siblings, that they were my mother's children, was never something that happened. It's still not happened. They talk about them as like las amigas. And that's hurtful to my sisters, obviously. But I don't give a hoot. They're my sisters and there's
but
nobody can tell me differently. But it's really unfortunate that that ignorance doesn't let you,
right. I mean, to me, it's
right?
just like saying, instead of saying stepsister, I would never say stepsister. I would just say sister. Like, I'm not gonna say my adopted sister. I'm just gonna say my sister. I'm not gonna say my half sister. I'm just gonna say my sister. To me, those prefixes or those little titles in front of that does not mean anything. They're still your sibling. They're still
There's them identifiers. That's the literal name
right.
for it. They are literally a half sister or an adopted sibling. But when it comes down to it,
Yeah, they're just
they're your brother, they're your sister, they're your sibling, period.
exactly. They're your sibling.
I they're it's so crazy, pants. I My uncle has 10 kids.
Oh crap. Well,
They had no
no.
television. From his first marriage, he had 3 kids. Second marriage,
Mhm.
7. There's only one boy in that tribe of
Whoa.
babies. Um, the they don't refer to each other as, my half sibling, my whatever. People have tried to enforce that as though like they're right and they know better, and my cousins have been
Right.
wrong. They treat each other as what they are. They are brothers and sisters.
Right.
Not not oh, because you're the child of fulanito and I'm the child of no. No. Hell, there's friends of mine that are my sisters,
Right.
and nobody could tell me different. You
Yeah.
know,
I'm pretty sure we all have that
it's not
non-blood sibling, and we're like, that's my brother, that's my sister, that's my sibling. And that is the bond.
because what makes that? What makes that? It's not a paper. It's not blood.
Right. Just like that
It's a
quote we
connection.
posted earlier, um, that biology is the least of what makes someone a mother. I say the same thing. Biology is the least that makes someone a sibling. You know, like, yeah,
I mean, if we talk about the horrors of what adoption in the human realm is,
oh, right,
adoption of animals. I mean, what has happened? There are so many animals in shelters, and bless the Humane Society for maintaining their efforts
yeah,
despite severe lack of funding. But what happens with severe lack of funding? It takes money to feed animals, to maintain their health, to even keep them in the facility.
right.
After a certain amount of time, animals don't age out.
They donate.
It's not like they get released onto the
Right,
streets. They get put to sleep.
right,
They get put to sleep and it's not their choice. And they may not be old dogs or cats. They may be weeks old. And I'm dogs, cats, bunnies,
whatever
birds,
animal. Right,
right?
right.
They they there's no age requirement. That is so sad.
Mind you, I worked my most of my entire career has been either photography or animals. That's it. I don't know anything else in my life. So, um, I have 10 years of experience with animals, and I have worked. My first job was at PetSmart when I was like 19, and I've seen the way that PetSmart does not care for their animals that they have. This is why I stopped buying from them, working for them, and they do not care about their products. They do not care about anything. And mind you, PetSmart had a adoption center, but the animals were always sick, and they didn't care to spend on them, you know. And then when I worked in Boston in another animal place, that animal place had animal therapy. Like, dogs would like go for exercise at a pool. They would
Yeah.
medication. The vet was next door to the same facility. It was a three-part unit, and I was in the food one.
Mm,
And the food that you feed your animals is obviously important as well. Treat your pet,
absolutely.
your familiar, your companion like you would treat yourself. You're not gonna feed you crap. Well, maybe you are, but that's another story. But anyway, it's harder, and then we will have adoption time, and the animals were so happy and healthy, and people will want to adopt them, but it always came with a price because they took care of them for so long that there's money invested in it, you know what I mean? But when you care and you take care of something, is always worth it at the end.
Yep. And I mean, it's really sad. So right now in my house, I have 3 cats. All of them have been adopted. I mean, I get it. There's people out there who really want pure breeds and you're going to pay for it. Amen. To each his own. But please don't do the puppy mill
No,
route.
that's
Like,
terrible.
consider adoption. Consider adoption. Like, there's so many animals. Who the fuck cares if you got a Yorkie? Like, um, there are mixed breeds that are just such joys to have. And each one of my babies, my fur babies here, was adopted, and one of them was severely uh, traumatized. She used to get beaten with brooms, kept in a cage that was covered all the time, never was given a kitty litter. So she would sit in her urine and feces, uh, and she can't. So the way that she eats, she tries to eat everything all at once, and then she throws it all up because there was other
Food
cats who would come and eat
aggression.
her food. So she had to learn how to eat fast. If not, she was going to
Yeah,
starve.
food aggression, yes.
And yeah, for a year she's been with us, and now she finally starts coming around to allow herself to be pet a year and to lay down
Yeah,
with
she's
us.
severely traumatized,
Um,
yeah.
but if she sees a broom, she runs in the opposite
And
direction.
another thing,
If anybody walks past her too fast,
oh wow, that's severe. And another thing
she has to kick
that
her.
gets to me is if you're able to take care of an animal, that means you are able to take them to a vet. You have to have the financial means to take them to a vet, meaning spay them, meaning take care of them in that way so they don't have any children, because then it's going to be just more and more and more and more and more.
That is so massively important. I'm so glad you said that. Catch and release is a viable option. If you don't want to do it, there's people willing to. The cat network is always accessible. I don't know what the name of the dog one is, but you can call the Humane Society and they will point you in the right direction, right? Because the people, even the people at the Humane Society, don't necessarily want you to take the animal there
Right,
because they know that if it doesn't get adopted, it'll be put to sleep,
right,
right? So, but they rather you take them there than leave them thrown in the street or people who break windows and toss them into abandoned houses. And then what you find is a malnutritioned animal. Cats can have litters back to back, and the litters can be anywhere between 4 to 8, 10 kittens. And they die of starvation or being run over or being beaten and taunted by humans, right? Or by other cats who are trying to survive,
right. No, and this is what,
right? And if you're the runt, the mother knows to leave them alone and abandons them. You know, that's how nature is, but it's still sad. So catch and release, you pick up these animals and you get them spayed or neutered. You don't have to take them home and keep them.
right,
You can either take them in so that they're in a shelter and potentially get adopted, or if you want to release them in the same place you picked them up, at least you release them in a way that they are no longer gonna
right.
procreate. You know what I'm saying? And it
All the animals that I've had throughout my whole entire life, I've always either they came to me, I found them, or people that I know were like, oh my God, I don't want this, this animal, this kitty, dog, whatever, to be like run over on the streets or whatever. I'm the type of person, I'm taking them in. So at one point I had 4 dogs, birds, bunnies, like a lot, like 13, 14, you name it. A duck, a turtle, five, six,
yeah, you're a low key.
5 hamsters, you name it. I had all the types of animals because I am able to take care of them. Why not? Like my dad will always say, "Donde comen uno, comen todos." Where one eats, everybody eats.
Yeah.
So, but my main concern as working as a dog trainer, animal trainer, taking care of them in the vet side, take it's neuter them, spay them, whatever the case is. Just take care of them in that aspect because again, you don't want them to have babies.
I know it can be tempting because you love your furniture, but please don't declaw cats.
Oh no. No, maybe not. Just my thing is, don't declaw them. Just file it a little bit.
Trim them,
Yes, just trim them.
trim them.
That's
But
it.
you're taking away their ability to defend themselves for whatever reason they get out of the house.
Oh, and please do not put bells on the cats. That's actually detrimental to their hearings. That is actually bad. You're actually causing them to be deaf, okay? That is bad.
I didn't know
It's
that.
bad. It's actually so close to their ears that it's like a bell is actually for the prey. So if the cat is about to like has a brat or here the animal, the prey is the only one that's able to go free. It's not for the cats themselves. This is a human thing that was invented, so please do not do that. If you want to know where your cat is, because I know they like to hide, put una chapita with their name on it because that also makes noise. When I learned that,
Oh my God, I did not. Thank you for telling me that. I never knew. And I think Squishifer has a bell,
we'll switch Squisher
I
for now
think.
because, and I'm saying if you want to keep your bell on your cat, that's up to
No, I just didn't know, but now I know.
you. But yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and another thing,
I mean,
those exotic animals you want to adopt like a lizard or a snake. If you're not able to take care of a snake, do not freaking get one just so that you can release it into the wild or to wherever and then there's a 10-foot fucking python or something walking around loose.
now during the pandemic, a lot of people were adopting animals.
Uh,
A lot more people are deciding that they don't want to have children, A, at all, or B, not yet, right? So, in place of that, they're opting to have fur babies. And during the pandemic, there was a big increase in adoption, which is wonderful. Pandemic ended, a lot of animals were
I
returned.
knew that. This is why I told all the friends that I saw them get animals. I'm like, if you're gonna fucking return the pet, you're a piece of shit person. Because that was a selfish thing for you to do.
I mean, there's circumstances where you may have to like not keep the pet, then you find it a different forever home.
That's
You know what I'm
fine.
saying? Put the effort into finding it another home. But if you do it as like a placeholder until you can get back to your life,
Right.
it's a living being. Like there are people who give babies back. It was more than I anticipated. What the hell did you expect?
Right. Like it makes no sense at all. But no, listen. I'm sorry, but if you knew from the beginning that you wouldn't be able to take care of an animal during the pandemic and you selfishly got it just to fill in that time slot, again, you're selfish. If you knew you were going to return it anyway, you don't want to put that baby through that. I'm sorry, you don't.
I think it was during the Halloween episode that we did. We talked about how there's restrictions around certain
Yes.
adoptions, and around Halloween, they put restrictions on adoptions on black cats
Yes.
because people were adopting them to mutilate them or do rituals
And
with
it's
them.
funny because also um uh, PetSmart used to have a
My baby is a black cat.
PetSmart used to have a Black Friday. They used to give away the black pets that they had because people said it was bad luck. So this is why all those pets were up just literally for free. Like you didn't even have to pay the adoption fee because nobody wanted to pay for it. It makes no sense to me. Like listen, black birds, black geckos, black rabbits, black guinea pigs, dogs, cats. I saw them all being left because they were black. Like nobody wanted them. So Pittsburgh did the adoption Black Friday special free. Take it if you want it. You know, for people like us, I would like adopt all of them. Let's go. We have a home, but you don't want to go
Totally.
crazy either.
Yeah, it's hard for me because I you don't want to be judgmental as to what someone's choice or preference is.
It's
It's
fine,
again
yeah.
to each his own. But I feel like adopting solely on the basis of the aesthetic of the child or animal or whatever the case may be, you want a baby, you want a healthy child. the child you bond with. You know what I'm saying? That child may not fit a particular aesthetic that you would have imagined. And you're denying yourself that, and you're denying that child that
Mm.
because of a perceived idea. I'm really glad to see, mixed families in general, especially mixed adopted
All right.
families, because, but what I do, what I would totally say is that if that is the case, then do take the extra step to learn about the culture or the background of that child,
I was just about to say that. I was just about to tell you that. Yes, that's
because just because they're entering your world doesn't mean that their world is no longer
right.
valid.
Exactly.
That is part of their identity, and they will eventually want to know it. And if you deny it to them from the onset, you're creating potential problems for their themselves and having identity issues, because other people will see them as who they are, right? And ask them about it. But you're also creating problems between yourself and your child, of like, why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you
Right.
show me this? Right? And you rather it be a sort of bonding experience, I would assume. Like I would think, if I adopted a a baby from Portugal, right? I would want them to know about their, or Brazil, their Portuguese or Brazilian heritage, their music, their
And the best
history.
time to tell the child when they're adopted is as soon as possible, as soon as they are able to understand right away. Like I feel and I've read that that's the best time, right? When they're like 2 years old, whenever they're learning and understanding and trying to grasp, just tell them. And if it's an open adoption, perfect. Let's start introducing them, you know,
I wonder why people choose to,
have close adoption.
I mean, for like embryonic adoptions, when they're adopted while still in the womb,
Oh, yeah.
I know people that choose to say
Hmm.
that never choose to tell the child that they were adopted. Right? It's different because now that child, it's not like they were in the system and they have this story of like, the moment we saw you, we knew.
Right.
But there is that story of, before you were even born, we loved you. Um, I don't. I actually, now that I think about it, I didn't read up on that, but I am curious to look into it now to see what that difference is and what is quote unquote recommended,
Right.
because so many things are circumstantial.
Yeah.
I have these little nuggets that you shared with me. There are 400,000 children in foster care in the U.S. Nearly 4 428,000 children. Wait, yeah, to be exact. 40% of adopted children are different race, culture, or ethnicity than their adoptive parents.
That's
40%.
fine.
That's awesome sauce. That's awesome sauce. Because before it was the whole, I want them to look like me. I get it. If you're not able to have a child on your own for whatever reason, to want them to look like you, I
Yeah.
get that desire. Um, Around 140,000 children are adopted every year in the US. 7 million Americans are adopted. In the foster care system, boys outnumber girls. African American children are disproportionately represented, and over 50% are 6 years old or older. Wow.
Wow, the boys are higher, huh? That's interesting. I would have thought it would have been girls. Is that what they said? No? Okay.
No, no, that boys, there's more boys. And since, I guess, since they're saying that 50% of them, that's a big number,
Yeah.
a big percentage, are 6 years or older. I mean, that's a difficult age for boys. They're ratty.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the situation that an adoptive parent is coming into,
Right.
it could be potentially a turnoff, right? If they've come from a particular background or abusive home, an adoptive parent takes that into
Yeah.
consideration. Are they mentally and emotionally capable
Of taking.
and
Yeah.
equipped? Yeah. So factors. More than 60% of children in foster care spend 2 to 5 years in the system before being adopted. Almost 20% of children spend 5 or more years in foster care before being adopted, and some are sadly never adopted. Same sex parents in the US are 4 times more likely than different sex parents to be raising an adopted child. Gay and lesbian parents raise 4% of all adopted children in the United States. And to think that 4% of children in foster care were being denied a home just no because people had issues with same-sex couple
Right, makes
fighting
no
over
sense. That's four
custody.
percent. That's a lot of potential kids. So today with 411 with Truby, I found 4 organizations that I find that are touching different subjects in different areas of the child's life. So the first one is called KidsSave.org. They find older foster kids and orphans permanent homes through a weekend and summer hosting program. You can become a host in their Weekend Miracle program. You can volunteer or you can donate. So with this one, they actually find people, when they're older kids, so they have still an opportunity to get adopted. The second one is togetherwerise.org. They help children in several ways. They're a nonprofit organization that want to make the foster care experience better. Since we have heard
That's awesome.
a lot of horrible stories with the foster care system. They have 3 programs called Sweet Cases, Building Bikes, and Family Fellowship Scholar Program. So the Sweet Cases helps replace the trash bags with blue duffel bags to make the foster care transition a little bit easier for children. And if you already know, when you are moving, you're a foster kid, you usually have a trash bag. You just stick your crap in there and you go. I've seen that happen so many times. So they're trying to make it a little bit less, you're a foster kid with a trash bag. Now you have a blue duffel bag, it's cute, it's better, it's less of a, ripping you away from whatever's happening to you.
It's not just that, it makes you feel like a person, like you have value.
Exactly.
What it is to put your only belongings in a garbage bag is
So
fuerte.
when the foster youth ages out of the system, they are provided bikes for them to get them to their schools and jobs. So they also provide a way for them to get to their places also. So that is the Building Bikes program that they have for them. So they just don't leave them, out and about with nothing. And the last program is the scholarship one, that they're awarded benefits for the youth after they age out of the system. So they also provide benefits for them, so they, until they could get a job, that they are also able to maintain a little bit of stability until they're able to do it on their own. So I like that one. It's called Together We Rise. So when I found that one, I was like, something, finally, a program that is able to help the children that age out of the system. You're still a child when you're 18. You don't know anything about it, especially when you've gone through so much already. The next one is called the treehouseforkids.org. The Treehouse advances equity and racial justice in the foster care and education system. So they have their graduation numbers is skyrocketed. It's up above 40% of children that graduate that are in the foster care system.
Especially look what this is why can't I speak English? Statistic that we read before, that the African American
Exactly.
uh, males, because we know now that it's more boys than anything, are disproportionately represented
So Treehouse for
with our
Kids provide
children.
that, and they have tutoring for them as well, and they do clothing and other supplies. So they provide other things for them more than just education. So I like this one as well. And the last one is called fosteramerica.org, was foster-america.org. It's a nonprofit organization that aims to improve the lives of America's most vulnerable children, like those in foster care or at risk of entering the system. So they actually help them trying to find a home. So if they're already they're about to enter the foster care system, they try to avoid that by actually trying to help them gain, a home, or like they try to get to know the situation before they even enter it. So I obviously put the links on YouTube like below when we're done, so we could even donate. If you're not able to be a foster person or adopt yourself or whatever, you could donate, learn, share, and just be the change you want to see.
Volunteer. You don't have to necessarily be a foster parent.
Solid.
There are facilities that are just big homes that aren't necessarily foster homes that you can volunteer and just show kindness
Exactly.
to a child. Teach him what it is to connect, to feel love, to be seen, to be appreciated. Goes a long way.
Yes.
Quoted quotes are quoted quotes. Um, that first one. There are times when the adoption process is exhausting and painful and makes you want to scream, but I am told so does childbirth. Scott Simon, the host of NPR's Weekend Edition and author of Baby We Were Meant for Each Other. Um, then we've got adoption. Our family is like a big, beautiful patchwork quilt, each of us different yet stitched together by love. And last but not least, I always questioned if I was ready to adopt, and then I realized that no child is ready to be an orphan. Anil.
I actually have a quote to share with you guys. I have one quote. No, I'll leave that to you, but I'll share this one. And it says, when an adopted person wants to
Yeah.
tell you about their life, about losing their mother, their father, their country, you are being led into a sacred place. Even if the story is being told for the millionth time, consider listening with deep attention. This is called love. Anne Heffron. That's the thing, man. Somebody's letting you into their past, into their roughness, into their what they've been through. Yes. And some don't want to relive it, and some want to be so far away from it they disconnect. But they're telling you, so you sit there and you listen.
We all learn from each other's experiences, and we'd be surprised how we connect to an experience that seems so far removed from our
Yeah.
own, right? And we remember that what connects us is our ability to be human.
All I'm saying is that if you're gonna adopt, just do it for the right reasons. Don't do it for a selfish one to fill a hole in your heart or to feel loved by something or be needed or wanted. Do it because you want to give another human that's lost or that needs just the love and just love and care. And if you're about to adopt an animal, don't do it for the selfish reason just because they're pretty or because you feel lonely or because just do it because you want to also give them a home, a love, and have them for as long as they live. I had albino frogs, for God's sakes. Listen, you show love, the way that you want to be loved also. So you just don't be selfish, you know and remember that all of us are going through a tough um time. We don't know what's going on with anybody's world. So don't assume, and don't feel like that you're entitled to their story. No one is. And just love and be considerate and patient and know that everybody has a story. So
Mm. It takes a very special person, not just because she's my mama, but like I always admire my mom for without a second thought wanting to adopt my sisters and bringing that gift into our family. It takes special people to want to adopt and stick with it. Um, because sometimes it's even harder than, you know, sometimes it could be even harder because you're dealing with sometimes the damage that someone else did. And the fact that you take that on and you travel that path with this life says so much, and how fortunate, they are to find a forever home, and that's for a human, and that's for a pet. So, if you are able to and have considered it, do it. um, it really is a very enriching experience. And even if you don't take the time to volunteer at these places, and learn the legislature for, or the organizations that, like, should be shared, that help these children that may or may not get adopted or get adopted later on, so that they, while in the system, are receiving the care and the coping mechanisms, so that they can become just amazing parts of society, right? Not that the numbers dwindle or fluctuate. We succeeded, oh well, for the other ones,
Right.
if the opportunities are there, that they are viable opportunities, not if you made it, you made
Right.
it. So, um and I'm big on adopting animals. I can't talk like I would have a zoo if you let
What?
me, of animals to find forever homes for. Um, yeah, and I catch and release. I'm big on that. If you're not gonna take the animal in, no harm to you, but help them not keep having more babies,
Yeah.
because they just suffer. That's my final thought.
Yes. Well, leave your comments below if listen to anything that we had to say. I don't know, share more resources, share another information, share more anything that you think is useful.
Make sure you see comments. This platform doesn't let you see comments. That's
Yeah,
background.
I know we try. We're in Facebook Live Messenger room.
Well, we love hearing from you guys. DM us.
Yes.
DM us and comment in the live link. It'll be left on the Facebook. And next week, we hope to see y'all on the 19th. Monday the 19th, we'll be talking about expectativas.
Oh yes, expectations. I was like, wait, no, yes. But
You know what?
but
Expectations.
have a good night, everyone. Stay fearless, everyone.
Stay fearless,
Bye
fam.
bye.